Hello.
Hello.
This is David.
Well.
Hello, everybody.
Jack just joined us, so we'll let Jack. Jack, you want to introduce yourself?
Say
and
hello.
Willie.
Tell us who you are.
Hello.
Jack.
Who am I? Just a stranger.
Is this Jack Kelly? Oh my goodness. George.
I
Tell
did.
tell us the rest of us. Tell the rest of us who you are, please.
I'm Jack Cowley. I live in Fairfield, California.
Oh, Jack Kelly.
Yeah. And I used to do Access about 10 or 12 years ago.
Well, it's good to see you. Yeah, I remember you from Utter Access days.
Those were the days.
Those were the good old days. It's really good of you to join us, Jack. Thank you. Willie McClure has also joined us.
Hello, Willie. Hello, Linda. And we have another Brit. Hello, Peter.
Hello.
Hi, Peter.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Good evening,
Peter. Glad you could join us. Now we're really outnumbered.
Well, Colin, you look really chipper for the hour for you.
I'm good at acting.
Well, we appreciate the sacrifice you guys are making.
He's got both eyes closed, but he's got pupils painted on the outside of his lids.
This is a presentation on extended file properties, and I am really, really excited about this topic. We have two presentations tonight. I'm going to show you a free tool by Wayne Phillips, everythingaccess.com, and Colin Riddington also has a free tool to get extended file properties, and the tools work a little differently. I think they're both amazing, so I'm really looking forward to this session. The first tool is by Wayne Phillips. I'm going to put 3 links in the chat. Oh, I can't see the chat anymore.
Crystal, if you want to put links into the chat,
I'll give them to
put them
you.
into Skype, and I will put them into chat for you.
All right. Okay, there they are. Thanks, Abe. This first tool you can go get on everythingaccess.com. I put 3 links in there. The first one is what we're looking at right now, and the second one is Colin's tool, and the third link is my presentation. It couldn't be any easier. You browse for a file, and you pick a file. I'll just go get a zip file. You open it up, and bang, there's all the properties. This is amazing. I use it so much, I have it pinned to my taskbar so I can get to it really fast. I have a couple things added to mine, and before you could just look and you can scroll up and down, but there wasn't really any way to copy things. So I've got this text box here, and if you click on a row, it puts the name up here. So then you could copy it and paste it into your code. So if you're scanning through a file to see what kind of properties are available, and then you've got your VBA and the other thing going on, you can get that property name. I also added this button here, Write to Excel, and it's probably going to be so fast you won't see it run. Oh, it's done. Okay, so it's done. It writes all that information out to an Excel spreadsheet, and I'll just say OK here. And then it creates a folder called Excel Reports underneath wherever the file you had is. And you can go in the code and change that to just like put them all in the same place if you want to. Now let me open up Excel. This is all the property names, the description, the value description, and then I put the ID field on the end because I don't really care too much about that. Wayne has it first. I prefer to use the property name here just to make the code a little bit more readable, well, a lot more readable. In Excel, also when it writes it, it puts these sorting things there so I can sort from A to Z. And now I can look down and all these are grouped. So if I wanted to come down to all the properties that have to do with images, then I can go down here to, oh, I didn't pick an image, did I? Let me, I'm not sure what the special zip properties are. Let me browse for a file and let me get an image file because those I think are the most interesting ones. So I'll just open up an image file, write this to Excel. Okay, and now it's done writing, and I'll just open this up. Now I'll sort these in ascending order, and actually Colin's presentation, I'm really impressed with what he's done. He's gone and compared all these different file types, which file types have what properties, and really impressive work, Colin. So now I'm sorting these in ascending order. So these are all the ones that start with system image. Now those aren't all the ones that are specific to photos. Pretty neat that you can get this. You can get the dimensions, the width, the height, the vertical resolution. We come down a little bit more. There's a few more image ones down here on photo. I guess this has to do maybe with your camera. The brightness level that the camera was set at. You can check the date it was taken on the camera. Now I found that the date modified and the date taken were pretty much the same of the ones that I compared. Digital zoom, whether or not that's on and what it's set to, the zoom denominator, you have zoom numerator. So this is 16/16 because I didn't have this one zoomed. But it's pretty cool that I could figure that out. You can also figure out if the flash was on or not, and the flash text. And there's all kinds of different things that you can get. And once these are written to Excel, of course, you can just do whatever you want with this. I'm going to close these, and I'm going to close that. Don't save. Oh, I'm so proud of myself for this. I put a little Easter egg in here. So I have several images in this folder. And what if I wanted to get the information for all of them? I put a little hidden button in here. Where did I put it? I think I put it up here. So if I click in the very top left corner, it says, do you want to loop through all the files in the folder containing that file that I'm looking at and write the picture properties to Excel? So I say, yes, I want to do that, and it's done. Doesn't take it very long. And so when it creates a file with the properties, it puts properties in the front. When it creates it specifically for the pictures, it puts the word pictures in the front. Drag this in so you can see what it's going to get. Now you can make this get anything you want. I just have it getting the file name. Oh, I guess I didn't do very good on the date. I probably spelled the property wrong in my code. I put this together this afternoon. Whether or not the flash is on, the zoom. Oh, I guess I wasn't quite done with that procedure. Okay, well, I'm going to go and do a little bit more on this before Wayne gets back. So by the time he gets back and uploads it, those two columns will be filled out also. This is pretty neat because these are all the pictures in that folder. This is what I really like. I want a list of all the pictures on my whole hard drive and when they were taken and more information about them. Now let me close this and come back to here. As far as the interface goes, this is all there is to it. Now, there is more with VBA, but before we get into VBA, what I want to do is I want to show you Colin's tool. Well, actually, I want Colin to show you Colin's tool because he's really good at explaining it. It's excellent. This is a very, very impressive tool. Colin goes about this a little differently, and what he does is he loads all his stuff into Access. So if you want to, you can save all of this property information in Access tables. I was really impressed, and if I wasn't trying to focus so hard on Wayne's tool, I would have really enjoyed digging into this a little more. Colin?
The app, which you can download from my website, and at the end there'll be a link to the website there, just contains the Access file, PDF file, And there are some examples of the text files that are actually produced by the program as well. But anyway, if we move on from that and show the app, when you first open it, there's a very simple screen, and there are a number of options that you can get from there. The help button links to the help file that you need to keep put in the same folder, and it explains all of the features of the program. George, is it possible to transfer the presenting to my screen, and then I'll try and do it live?
Yeah, let's do that.
And you're the one that's supposed to be sleepy.
It's more stressful trying to talk to a video that isn't necessarily the way I want to actually speak at the moment. So I'll try and do it.
Oh, I see Graham has joined us. Hello, Graham. Do you want to say hello while Colin's getting set up?
Hi, everybody.
The screen, when you actually open it, is fairly simple. At the top, there is a help button, and the help button links to a PDF which is supplied with the program and which explains the different features that I'm going to briefly outline. I'll go through the buttons from the top here. First of all, there are, at the moment, in Windows 10 anyway, 321 extended properties, not including any user-defined properties. And this button here then opens a report, which I'll just zoom slightly here. And this shows all of the extended file properties that are available for any type of Windows file. As I say, there are 321 of them, starting at number 0, going up to 320. There are certainly nothing like that number in any individual file, and most have somewhere between 20 and 40. It depends on the file type. If I just close that then, this next button will show you some of the different file types I've already actually looked at. Now, this is a dynamic crosstab report. As I add extra file types, it will add extra columns on here. And if I zoom that again, you'll see the first few are, if you like, the standard properties that all files, Windows files, will have. Name, size, item type, etc., etc. After you get past about number 11 or so, then it starts differing significantly, and there are some which you will, I've never actually seen conductors, but I presume I don't listen to the right sort of music file. If we go on to the next page here, you'll see a huge number of different extended properties that who knows what sort of file they correspond to. I've never found some of these. And if we carry on to the end, the last few are linked just to video files. And if we look on this one here, you can see the headings there. You can see the number of extended properties for each of the types of file that I've looked at so far. JPG files have significantly more than most, and that's because mobile phone photos tend to have a lot of EXIF data that you can then make use of in Windows. Though the EXIF data for JPG files includes GPS data, latitude, longitude, and so on, but that isn't transferred to the extended properties in Windows, which is irritating, but that can be got round by using a different method called Windows Image Acquisition, or WIA. Let's actually look at how we use this for an individual file. So to look at an individual file, then I just click on Browse, and not having planned what I was going to look at, do a log file. And if I now click on Show Properties, and you'll see now the properties that exist for just that particular type of file. 25 of those, the standard ones at the beginning, the computer it's stored on, the owner, which is normally the name of the user of that computer, where it is, and so on. Nothing particularly exciting with this one. Well, we can actually look at all the files of a particular type in a certain folder. And if I now go to a folder which has got some JPG files in it, wrong one. Here's my dog Isla. It's the username. And now it's actually loading all of the extended properties for each of those. Now there's 9 or 8 files in that folder. It takes just a few seconds, roughly 1 second per image. And if we look at the results now, you get a subform opening with the main properties for each of those files. but obviously not all of the extended properties because there's 48 or so for JPG files. If I click on any one of those, you'll get the same familiar report opening, and you can see some of the different properties that were shown in that image that Crystal linked earlier in Wayne's tool there. Vertical resolution, horizontal resolution, exposure details, flash, etc., etc. Or if I don't want to just do one, I can do all files there. And so if I click on that one there, I get exactly the same, but I get it for each of the different files that are in that folder. And obviously, if there are 300 or 500 files, you get a bigger report, but it will actually load each of them fairly quickly. If you know that you're going to want to look at that again, you can click on Save Properties Data, and it will then save all of that data to a table. I've already saved this one before, but I'll overwrite that, called, in this case, Photos JPG. Now, it's called that because they're in a folder called Photos, and they're JPG files. So if we click on that, and now we can click on the drop-down arrow, and that then will load the same report as I did before, same files. But if we look at ones I've done earlier, then some spreadsheets, CSV files, same report, different sort of file, JSON files, large number in that folder, 133. Again, a similar sort of file, and also audio files there, and the standard sort of information you get for audio files. Although in this particular case, for reasons I haven't checked, it doesn't actually tell me the duration of the file. Most do, but that one didn't. I think that will do probably for that, except that what I haven't done is tell you where the files can be found.
The link is in the chat. All right, thank you so very much for staying up
Okay.
and for giving us your...
Hope that wasn't too lengthy. Cheers.
Cheers.
Over to you, Crystal.
I just want to say we have a super special person connected. He's never come to one of these meetings that I know of. He lives in this really far away place called New Zealand. Guess who it is? Graham Mandino, one of the most best teachers. I love reading what he writes. I'm like in awe that he's come. Thank you, Graham, for being here. I talked about the everythingaccess.com, the accessing detailed file information. I'm getting ready to get into the VBA. I'm doing a little summary of what you've seen so far. And then you saw Colin's tool that you can get from the mendipdatasystems.co.uk, extended file properties. When you go download Wayne's tool, in order to bring this capability into a database that you develop, because maybe you don't want to use his form and just browse to a file and get the properties that way, you just need 3 class modules, and here they are. And they're the only class modules in the download. But Wayne has this really unusual way of hiding things in plain sight, which I'll show you when we actually go start looking at the code in the database. So you'll be getting 3 VBA class modules out of his database if you want to put this capability into another database. Then once you do that, once you have those modules, this is how easy it is. I mean, it just doesn't get any easier. Let's say you have a path file to what you want information on, and then I just made a sProperty variable for the property name that I want to get information on, but obviously you could hard code that in too. And then I assigned those 2 variables, and then there it is at the bottom. You see the with, end with. So I don't even have to make an object variable. I can just say with file property explorer dot open file, send it the path file, and then in that with block, I can get whatever properties I want. And here I'm just doing a message box. I'm just going through some of the different ways you can do this. You can also get properties by index. So here, after the dot item, you see I have n row minus 1 is the index of the property I want, and they start at 0, so they go from 0 to the properties dot count minus 1. So you can reference them that way. A lot of times you'll just want the value, but you can get the ID, the name description, the value, and the value description. If you do want to set up an object variable and reference it in your code, I just used with, so I didn't have to make one, then this is how you dimension it. Just dimension file property or whatever you want to call it as file properties, and then at the end set it to nothing, because that's how you would clean it up. I didn't introduce myself at the beginning. You all know me. Access is just my total favorite application on the whole planet, in the whole world, for my whole life. Although Camtasia is a close second. I've been using it a long time, and I teach. I share coding tools on msaccessgurus.com. At the bottom of my pages, there's a donate button on the bottom of a lot of my pages. If you download something and you really like it and you want to help me back, you can just click on that little donate button and I'll be very thankful. I also post on accessmvp.com. MS Access Gurus and AccessMVP.com are both Linux sites now. They didn't used to be. They both used to be on Windows, so that means they're both case sensitive. So if you're just going to the main page, it doesn't matter, but if you're drilling down, then those things all have to be lowercase. I post on a lot of forums, but not really very much posting anymore as I used to, because I think my days now are kind of busy making videos. I have a YouTube channel, Learn Access by Crystal, and then I also do the English videos for Access User Groups. For my business, I connect and I teach you how to do it yourself. We just connect and work together, and I help you whenever you need it. If you are interested in training using your data and files, you can send me email. Training@msaccessgurus.com. So I'm going to go back to this File Property Explorer, and now I'm going to go to the code. So this code to write to Excel, to write out all these properties to Excel, actually I started out by dimensioning an object variable for the file properties, but then I realized I didn't have to do that. I have it set up for late binding, and I'm dimensioning some other variables. Here, what I'm doing is I'm getting the file name and path that is picked. And Wayne actually just stored it in the caption of a control called label file path. So I just go get that. If that transparent button was clicked on to loop pictures, it asks them if they want to loop through the files in the folder, because it occurred to me that maybe somebody might accidentally click on that little hidden transparent command button, and that's not what they want to do. So they have a choice. They don't have to do this. So we just create a new instance of Excel, loop through, get to the good stuff. So now here again, I'm not even using an object variable. I'm just saying with the file property explorer.open file, and I'm sending it the path file that I want it to open. Then I'm going to get all these items. So here I'm getting some items by name. Then it just loops through. It writes the headings across the top. OWS is my object for the worksheet. And then it just iterates through all of the properties and writes that information to Excel. I'm then calling my procedure to format the sheet. And then after it writes it, here's where I'm going to use some of that information I got from the named variables, and I put links in there. It's kind of weird, but in Excel, in order to add a hyperlink, you actually have to select the cell. So select to add the hyperlinks, and that makes that sheet, does the page setup, and then it just writes that information out. It creates the Excel reports directory if it needs to. this is kind of a more detailed thing to do with it. You know, a lot of times what you would do is you'd just go grab the few properties that you're interested in using the code on my PowerPoint presentation. That's just real easy to get to. Wayne also has great code examples on his webpage. Then you're getting this property information. So we see two ways to do it. We can give it the name, we can give it the number, and see item. There's one more way that we can get that property information. I'm going to go back to this screen. Can anybody tell me what that might be? Look at all the columns. What do you think it is? So we can get them by the property name, we can get them by the index, and there's one more way we can do it. Anybody? Yes?
Property ID.
That's it. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, so you can get it from that ID. Oh, yes. Now I'll show you how Wayne manages to hide his stuff in plain sight. So this module, this is English, although, gosh, where's the code? We know that it does it, but we don't see code here. Okay, this module, again, we don't see very much code, but we know it's doing it. So how is it doing it? Go to this module, and here, okay, so that's some English. And now we come to this, and this is how he does it. This is the code that's running everything. So I'm very impressive. I don't know anybody in the whole world that can do this but him. I've never seen anybody be able to put this compiled code into a module like he does. He's a brilliant guy. So that's how he hides stuff and doesn't have to give you a MDE or a ACCDE, is because he does this.
Crystal, can I just interrupt for a second?
Yeah,
I'm wondering, just scroll down to the native code a second.
yeah.
And I haven't checked this, but it looks very similar to what you see if you look at an Access file in a hex editor. And I just wonder whether if you actually could look at it in a hex editor, you might be able to work out what on earth it all means.
Well, you could certainly try.
And I was going to pass that to somebody else. It's just, I have no idea what he does, and it's quite frustrating in a way, as well as very clever, that you don't know what he does. As I say, it does look very similar to what you get elsewhere. And he's not the only in one of Wayne's apps that he uses this method in. One of the other ones he's got, which is for getting GPS data from photos, also has the same method. Maybe all of them do.
Right, and so does VB Watchdog.
Yep.
Peter is here. You want to say something about VB Watchdog, Peter?
Yeah, it's Wayne's wonderful error handling system where you don't need to put anything in any of your routines. You just use VB Watchdog and it will pick up every error. It's incredibly powerful. Wayne does actually say how he does all this. There is something on his website, can't remember where, but I have seen him describing how he does this, burying the code in there.
Here's his VB Watchdog. Let me try and get it to show the dog. Oh, where's the dog? Where's the dog? Oh, maybe the dog isn't on the Watchdog screen. Maybe the dog is just on the home screen. Let me go to the home screen. There she is. Oh, my precious shady girl.
The VB Watchdog.
If you have ideas of things you might do with this.
I have to admit, I'm very unfortunate. I haven't been able to see anything, so I hear what you're saying, but it's been a bit of a struggle to follow, if I'm honest.
That's unfortunate. I know that the YouTube videos, well, and since this is Crystal's own presentation, I'm sure she'll put extra care into making it look really good when she does produce it, but it will be on the AUG website.
Sure. The other thing, of course, is that although you said, my, what's the name of the dog, you didn't actually explain to everyone that's actually your dog.
Oh, yes. Absolutely the best dog ever. I'm a little biased.
Fantastic. Well,
there was recently an issue with a 64-bit version for VB Watchdog. Does anyone know kind of what the resolution for that was?
He changed something. the analyzer uses that also.
The latest version is on his website. He actually fixed the problem within that 2 days, I think, of it being originally notified. What he doesn't do is tell everybody that he's done an update. So unfortunately, yeah, so all you needed
That's
to
what
do
was confusing me.
was re-download VB Watchdog from his website from your original link that you got when you bought the thing, and install it and nip into your database and just load VB Watchdog. It saves its 5 files and that's it. It's very, very quick. The pain is that he didn't actually notify us that he'd done the update.
Thank you for that, Peter. If you don't have the link to the extended file properties tool and you want to get it, and you go to everythingaccess.com, it's actually in the tutorials. So if you click on tutorials, then you'll see it here, accessing detailed file information. It's been updated since 2011. This was written 10 years ago, 11 years ago. It was an MDB file. Then so many people can't do anything with MDB files, so I had converted it to an ACCDB for myself and did a couple things to it. I sent Wayne my database.
You know, I wonder if Wayne is probably putting more of his attention into his Twin Basic project these days.
Oh, I'm sure he is. Oh, the way that this even got written was 10, 11, 12 years ago. I had read an article written by Doug Steele about how to get information from JPEG files using an EXIF tool. Then I looked at the Windows File Explorer, and when you look at the files there, you can see there's all kinds of columns that you can turn on. You right-click up here, and there's all these columns. These are all the properties that are being captured. So, why can't Access get this? The one person that came to mind that could probably figure it out was him. And so I emailed him, and I just thought he'd give me some tips. And instead, he wrote this. Very, very impressive tool.
I suspect he thought it was such a good idea, Crystal, that he was enthused to get on and do it himself.
Well, I think it's just that he could do it so fast. I mean, it was there the next day. I mean, maybe even the same day. I mean, I was just shocked. I emailed him, and then all of a sudden, this is out there.
That is there.
Yeah.
He's an extremely bright guy.
Yeah. Well, we're fortunate to have a lot of extremely bright people in our profession.
Mm.
And I appreciate so many of you being here tonight, in fact. Crystal, do you have anything else you want to wrap up?
Yes, thanks, George. There is one more thing. Wayne uses a custom function, enum properties, in the row source type to populate the list box. And you can actually see the code because it's behind the form. I found this so interesting that I made a video tutorial about how to do it. Here it is on my YouTube channel, and I'll put a link in the video description. I've learned some elegant methods by looking at Wayne's code. He is remarkable.
I was going to say thanks for the nice presentation there, Crystal. And I think it's time for me to go to bed.
I am so glad that you stayed up, Tony.
George,
Thanks, Crystal.
George,
Yes.
is the time for me to show very quickly how I actually get the extended file properties?
Absolutely.
Which is a much simpler method.
I will make you the presenter very quickly.
Right.
We've got a few more minutes, and when actually we can go as long as people are willing to stay awake.
Well, the trouble is by this time of night, I'll probably end up by staying awake all night. But, right, share. You'll remember the extended properties list at the beginning. I'll start with that one just very quickly. So that's all saved in this table here, the 320 odd properties there. And if I now click on VB Editor, that table is populated using one of the features of the Microsoft Shell and Automation, or Shell Controls and Automation Library, I think I've got the right name. Let me just check that. That library there.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm going to. Why don't you go to Tools Options and make your font bigger on your code, Colin?
Sorry, I didn't hear that, Crystal.
Go to Tools Options in the code window. Go to the options and set the font size to be bigger. So Tools Options, go to the font, editor format, and set your font to be much bigger. Because I don't think anybody can read that. I know I can't.
Is that okay?
That's better.
Thank you.
Right.
Not for me, but hey, nothing's going to work for me.
Okay. Right. Well, I'll do everyone except Adrian then. I think that was you. Right.
It was.
It's a very similar process in each of the bits of code that I use in this. They're all contained in this module here. And as I said, they're using one of the features of that Shell Controls and Automation library, which is called Get Details Of. And I won't go through the code in detail because I'm too tired, but basically having worked out that there are 321 of these from 0 to 320. Oh, and that's a good point for me to say that if anyone downloads this from my website, the earlier version, which is on the website, only goes up to 310. If you email me, you can actually get the latest version. I'll send it to you. Actually update my website at the moment. I loop through, grabbing the information, the name and the ID number for each of those, and populating the table. And the only problem with that is the usual problem about apostrophes. And so therefore I do a quick replace to get to remove them and then put them back in afterwards. There is a similar sort of method used to actually populate the extended properties file type table. And if I just bring this one down, that's the one which gives you the report where you get comparing the different properties for each of the different types of file that you've looked at. With this one then, you loop through again to get the file type, you loop through a second time to get the extended properties and to get the values, and then insert them into the table. If I want to actually do this for a particular file, whether it's an image or otherwise, again, we use this particular procedure. Empty out a temporary table, which I use to store the information ready for the report. Get the file details, use the get details of again, the same routine through, looping through, getting the properties, getting the property name, getting the property value, inserting them into a temporary table. If I then choose to actually save them, all of that lot goes into one of these tables here, and I seem to have opened a different one, different version of it without any saved information here. No, it's empty. I won't swap now. I haven't got time. Hopefully that's enough for people to actually see what I've done. I must admit it's a lot simpler for me to understand than exporting it all to Excel. Okay, George, I think I've done enough there.
Oh, wait, I have a question, Colin. You know that dynamic crosstab that you have with all the check boxes? Will you show us the table that you made that from?
Not in this one. Let me do it from the other version here.
I was going to make my presentation longer by analyzing a bunch of different file types and comparing them. And then when I saw that you already did it, I'm like, oh no, Colin already did that, so I'm not going to do it.
Okay, sorry. Right. So this is the dynamic crosstab query, or report rather. And if I actually go to the code for that.
No, I want to see the table, not the code.
Okay.
I want to see where the data comes from. I want to see the data.
I can't even remember which table it's in, I'm afraid, so I'll just have to find out. Right, it's in a crosstab query. Seems to be that one. And that crosstab query.
I think this is really, really wonderful.
It comes from that table that you saw earlier. And then it's cross-tabbed, as you can see here, with obviously the number of columns will increase as I add more files in there. If I now go to this report, I think it was that one, and go to the code for that. This code is something I lifted from the internet years ago, and I honestly can't tell you where it came from, and I don't know who did it. There's variations on the same theme elsewhere, but basically this screen here tells you what you have to do. You have a series of different columns which are all numbered, make the coding as simple as possible. You shove in your SQL, you then loop through to populate the headers, populate the controls, and if you want to do so, you can have a totals field, which I did actually at the bottom there. And you can use exactly the same code in any dynamic cross-tab report. Once you actually get the hang of it, all you need to know is how many fixed columns you've got at the beginning. And if I just come out of that, I've got 2 fixed columns at the beginning, so I need to start the code from there onwards. Okay, shall I stop sharing now?
More questions?
It'd be nice if we could just all unmute and talk. And maybe if you feel like it, George, maybe we can figure out what's going on with Adrian, you know, when everyone is done. Maybe we can stay and help him.
I'd be happy to do that. Adrian, do you want to stay up a little while longer? And
I'm very happy to. I've already been looking at things while this has been going on.
well,
Obviously I can't participate as much as I'd like to. But
And Tony, you told me that you were having trouble connecting on Tuesday, but obviously you're connected today. So do you see video, or what was the issue on Tuesday that you had? And did you do something different today? Is it working okay?
I did get on Tuesday, but I had the same problems I had today. I tried going off and back on again. It wasn't a problem connecting. It was a problem getting any decent video once I was connected.
Okay, before we get too far, I think we'll wrap up and end the formal meeting before we dive into this troubleshooting section. Is there any more questions or comments about what we've just looked at?
I'm good with that. Thanks, Colin. I appreciate
Yeah.
I appreciate it's very late for you, so I know it's a struggle.
So
Yeah, I appreciate it very much for all the folks who have attended. This has been a very, very gratifying experience to see so many people join us. I know.
Thank you. Makes good sense.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Colin, for staying up so late.
I'm definitely flagging.
And our apologies to your family if we kept them awake.
No, the reason I can do it, my wife is actually away for a couple of nights, so right, I'm not disturbing anyone.
Oh, timing is everything.
Otherwise, I'd be in the doghouse tomorrow.
Timing is everything.
Same here. My wife's away too.
All right, fantastic.
Okay.
Okay, great. On that note, I will end and we can go into a little troubleshooting sessions. Like Access itself, it's very eclectic, very universal. And so whatever is of interest to somebody, I would love to see a presentation on that.
What you notice is that when people have expertise and experience in areas other than the very core, they sort of treat it as something that everybody knows because they know it. They assume everybody knows it. And it's not always...
I'm going to ask Kent, how do I find and replace in the SQL editor?
Just Control F.
Control F.
Control H. Standard Windows.
For
heaven's
for find and hotel for update.
And how long has that been there?
Only about 3 or 4 months, something like that.
So I don't feel quite that badly,
Yeah.
but you know.
But speaking of things I've been...
replace, I don't think it's the fact of having it at all is new. I think it's been updated, hasn't it?
No, there never was one.
No, it's new.
Oh, really? Okay, let me go and have a quick check. I've got an old
I've
version
been banging on about it for years. I just put the one line from the batch file, I just stuck it in the chat. And all you got to do is change that version number to the one you want. You turn off the automatic updates in options. Oh, in Office options.
Yeah, not many people would know that.
If you go into your Backstage and you have a look at Account, you've got an option for Office updates.
Oh, I see that.
Where you can turn them
so
off.
You just disable the updates, and then you use your little
Disable
batch
updates.
file to get whatever build you want. I think that's That's amazing.
And it's just that one line that I just put in the chat, and you just change the build number on the end, and I just change the number in that batch file and run it. And I got the one I want.
Can you go back to a previous version using that same method?
Yeah, you can.
Right. In the SQL view, I did not know that existed. I always copy the SQL into a text editor and do the find and replace thing and copy it back again.
Well, that's what we've all been doing for years.
I've been doing that for decades.
What's the oldest version that search and replace is in?
The version that I put in the chat. That's the one I'm on at the moment.
13801. So it's quite new, is it?
Yeah.
I seem to recall it coming in the last year or so.
That's the version, the one I put there. That's got it. 16.0.1303801.20266.
People don't normally think that way though, Kent. I mean, that's all very well, 16.0. Blah, blah, blah. Most people want to know, is it 2019? Is it 2016? Is it?
When you go and have a look at the build numbers and the version numbers in Microsoft, they neglect to tell you the 16.0 point. They just give you the last bit. And it took me a little while to figure out you had to put the 16.0 in front of it.
Sure. I think everything since 16, obviously, which I believe was 2016, is now 16. Version number is all, and it will always be apparently 16.
16 something, yeah.
When they roll out updates, they can't. It'll muck things up if that changes.
I'm off then, folks. I got to go. The matchstick's keeping my eyes open on the point of breaking.
Thank you for your stamina so far. Yeah.
I'll see you.
That's one, Tony.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It was much more than 10 years ago. It was about 20 years ago. And the thing was that somebody sued them over a patent infringement and won, and Microsoft had to take that functionality out. That patent has long since retired, and it would be really nice if they would re-enable that ability.
Right. Use Access 2003.
It was the best version.
Was it definitely a good one? Definitely, no question. Things have moved on since then. I'm not sensibly going to suggest people go back to 2003, but there are certainly a lot of good things in there.
There was no good version before 2010, was there?
Well, that's because you're in themes, Peter.
That's right. That's when themes came in and shared pictures.
You're the expert.
I think you'll find 2003, which was almost by definition a good version, came in before 2010.
But which did you use, DAO or ADO?
Oh, DAO.
But didn't 2003 go for ADO?
It was 2000 that made the default library the ADO library instead of DAO. But it didn't go away. It's just that was the default library, and ADO has a smaller footprint. But DAO is what Access uses.
It's more built in. Let me put this very carefully so I don't say anything I shouldn't.
David's being quiet. David, did you fall asleep?
Oh, I'm typing.
You're not there really, are you? You've gone off, made yourself a cup of tea, and you just left your name there so it looks like you're involved.
No, I'm still here.
The other thing is they do build in some fantastic features and then nobody ever uses them.
Well,
Not themes, but...
You're talking
like
about
themes?
lookup fields, right?
No,
Themes. He's talking about
these themes.
There was also remember the district.
Forget multi-value fields.
Oh yeah, that's a great addition to the Access sphere.
It's generated a
Stay
whole
away from
lot of traffic on the user forums, I'll tell you that.
It's great for
good
consultants.
Actually, I noticed that. Crystal,
I love them.
Crystal, didn't you make a little tool to export multi-value fields and sort that out?
Yes, I did.
If you're an experienced Access developer, you probably can kind of figure out what's going on. And if you're Crystal, you can figure out how to extract the information. But for someone who's never opened up Access before 3 weeks ago. They can be incredibly confusing and difficult. I just had a thought. Let me try this out. And you feel free to tell me I'm nuts, but there is so much good code around and so many ideas. It would be really nice to have a repository.
Been talked about before, George.
I'm sorry?
I believe that's been talked about before. Is it? Didn't Access, what are the things that you're on, Crystal? Didn't that have?
Yeah, there was a point where they wanted to do that. Yeah.
The problem I have with making code available for general uses, there are always so many dependencies on other pieces of code that, so I've got a massive MDE or ACDE code library, but everything is sort of dependent on everything else. And so it's very hard to pull one piece of code out that performs a particular function and make it available.
That's contrary to the basics of procedural programming, okay?
Yeah, right.
But that conflicts with
they're supposed to be encapsulated and separated and all the rest of that rubbish.
Yes, but then you have the same code repeated in each encapsulation, which goes against the other rule.
No, I don't mean, do I mean that?
Well, I know what you mean.
George, I knew you'd get that first.
I've enjoyed this so much. It's hard to express it. This has been more fun than I expected, and I appreciate it very much. And I will follow up with some of these ideas.
I just put a Z on the end.
That's not what I don't.
Sorry, as long as you're consistent, Crystal, that's fine.
Did you say a Z on the end?
Great. No, fantastic. Thank you.
It's been good. It's been great fun.
See you next month.
See you next month.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.